Hey, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the comedically furloughed Dave Rubin, and I've got Bree Essrig and Ben Mankiewicz with me. And before we start, we do have to address what has happened here today. In case we have some frenetic energy on the show, I was on the way here, stopped at McDonald's, and I learned a lesson. Never go to McDonald's. Dropped an entire large Coke from the drive-through woman. She just basically dumped it in my lap. I'm wearing backup pants. Then we get here, and what does Ben do?
Spill my entire full cup of coffee on my iPad, but my cat-like quicknesses. I have the wrist rapidity of an 18-year-old, and I was able to snag my iPad. It appears safely out of the way and only ruined my pants and my notebook.
See, people, excessive masturbation occasionally can work out for you. Okay, we're going to get right to it and hopefully not spill. You don't have anything to spill, even.
No, but I know about that masturbation thing. Hey-o.
All right, so have you heard about this government shutdown? Yeah, they are shut down. I think we're in day 10 right now. And, sure, the NIH is closed so the kids can't get cancer trials. The World War II memorial is closed so veterans can't even check that out. Parks are closed. 800,000 people are furloughed.
Death benefits for servicemen killed in the line of duty, the $20,000 they get to pay for their funeral and help the family with costs.
Yeah.
Not being issued.
All kinds of craziness. Of course, though, Congress, they're still getting paid, even though they're the ones that got us into this, because, they really deserve that. But not only are they getting paid, their gym, Congress's exclusive gym, that's also considered essential, and it's staying open. What do they have in their gym? Well, they've got a swimming pool, basketball courts, paddleball courts, a sauna, steam room, flat screen TVs, but we should note that the towel service has been suspended. I'm not making that up. Should we expect any better from these people? They got us into this mess. They furlough all these people. All these people are getting screwed by this. It's harming the economy, but their gym is essential.
They do play paddleball, so no.
So off the bat, just because paddleball.
Just horrible people. It's like the worst sport ever.
Yeah. Is paddleball's elitist, right?
Paddleball is, I was about to say, do you use your hands? But I'm going to guess you use a paddle.
I believe it's a paddle.
A paddle, some blue balls.
It's right there in the title.
Little blue balls.
Blue balls.
Yeah, you're talking about a group of men who perennially have blue balls,
yeah.
I imagine. I don't know. This is one of those stories that is so ripe. Who thinks their gym should be open, right? I mean, but it does tend to deflect from the real issues. It's just one of those stories where you just get mad at Congress all over again. But the real things you should be mad at them for is, sort of the irresponsible governing, a lack of interest in government, a hatred of government, which means, of course, if you hate government, when you shut down the thing you hate, they think it's good.
Right.
They don't. That's why I was reading these interviews today with some Republican members of Congress. They're impervious to the criticism because they think the critics just don't get it.
Right. So every time the critics say to them, well, are you willing to give up your pay or should the gym be closed? Well, that's not what this is about. But
it is kind of.
So is this just their way of extra sticking it to us, sort of they're already sticking it to us, and it's very clear they're not doing the work of the people. They're not even doing work.
Yeah.
So it's sort of we're going to keep our gym open too because we are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It might be a good thing though. Exercise is really good for your heart, and these people are just so stressed out. They might have a heart attack. So at least they're working out.
Yeah. And legislating is all about abs, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, of course, the Vice President of the United States, the near Vice President of the United States last year was sending out pictures with his baseball cap on backwards, pumping iron, leering at the camera.
I remember that.
Although I believe he was on, he was doing the P90X, wasn't he?
He was.
I don't know what that means.
Haven't you seen that commercial? You get some straps. And
that's one of those.
So that you can do in the privacy of your own home. You don't even need a gym for it. That's the point.
But what we forget is these guys, especially members of the Tea Party, but some other members of Congress too, a lot of these guys live in their office because they think that they're in the people's house and they're doing the people's work and they don't want to be part of the Washington establishment. So they'll go up briefly to Washington for the least amount of time possible, save money, they always say, but it's not really saving the people's money. They're just saving their money.
Right, it's their electric bill at home.
You're not doing the people's work, you're just a cheap motherfucker, right? I think perhaps you need to realize that.
Yeah.
And so these guys stay there, so they use the gym as their shower because there are no showers in members' offices. So now, though, what that essentially means is that these guys who live in their offices are just, banging their secretaries on the people's futon,
Oh, see, I was going to say, I feel like they're all in the shower together.
It could be. It could be. That would be better.
Well, a lot of the Republicans, because we know they like that
Right.
DL kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So if we can't expect better, then we just have to. Where do you think this thing's going at this point? Because if they just keep pulling all this stuff, I mean, again, I totally agree with you that it's all a distraction. The World War II memorial thing, it's a distraction from the real stuff. But with all this stuff, for some reason, this hits people harder, right? When you hear about the World War II memorial thing, or you hear about the gym being open, it's more of a visceral feeling.
Because people are out of work and they're not even giving up a perk.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So it's bad. I would have closed it. Also, if you noticed, you read the story, the decision to close the gym was made by the Capitol architect.
Yes,
Who
very
you would
confusing.
imagine that this guy's work was done when the building was finished. You'd be like, hey, Larry, great dome, thanks for your work. But no, they call Larry back and he's like, keep the gym open.
Yeah.
Like, how is it his decision? But he made it in conjunction with the Speaker's office. And they went along with it. And I'm going to guess that Speaker Boehner, he reads those stories, he sees congressional job approvals at 9%, and he's like, well, it can't go any lower.
Yeah.
I'll just keep the gym open.
Yeah, so another AP poll came out today. The Congress's approval is now at 5%.
So it can go lower.
So it can go slightly lower. Is there what other people could there be besides Congress that could be so bad at their job? Is there anyone else? If all bus drivers were this bad, we'd find another mode of transportation, wouldn't we?
I don't think so.
You think we'd still take the bus?
I think we'd still take the bus.
You're right. Nobody's taking the bus out of joy.
It's always been true is that guys, they hate Congress, but they like their congressman. And so, it's always been like, Congress is the worst. It's terrible. My guy, he's good. I like him. I'd elect him again. I'd elect him 100 times. Yeah, he hates black people. He hates gays. I'm pretty sure he hates Jews. He can't say that, but I know how I feel. And so, you always send your guy back. And, of course, that just means 435 guys basically go back.
Doing a lot of nothing. All right, well, speaking of the gays, we actually have some good gay news. The dean of the Washington National Cathedral, his name is Gary Hall. He is calling homophobia a sin, not homosexuality, homophobia a sin. In a sermon on Sunday, he said this: homophobia is a sin. Heterosexism is a sin. Shaming people for who they love is a sin. Shaming people because their gender identity doesn't fit neatly into your sense of what it should be is a sin. Only when all churches say that clearly and boldly and courageously will our LGBT youth be free to grow up in a culture that totally embraces them fully as they are. I mean, obviously, to me, this seems pretty great, and I think we have to give some props to the Pope. He seems to be turning things around in the religious gay sphere. That's a club, I think. This is all good, right?
Amazing.
Do we have any negative thing attached to this whatsoever? Pretty great.
No.
You could be
Absolutely not.
cynical, I suppose, and suggest that he's looking out on Sundays at the flock. This is the National Cathedral, so these are Episcopalians.
Yeah.
And looking out there and saying, where have all the 20 and 30-year-olds gone? They're tired of the gay hate. But I think you're right, Dave. I think the Pope sort of opened things up, and the very reverend.
So can you explain what the very is? Because that's what they call him here in this.
The very reverend. He's just super reverend. That's what
Yeah,
that means.
extremely.
That's extra.
Yeah, everything he does is reverendy. He's very reverendy.
Yes.
No, I get term given by a lot of religions use it. The Episcopalians give it to just senior priests. So it means he's an important dude, and a very important dude. And I think he heard the Pope, and I think he thought, I don't want to be left off this. He probably thought it for years, but you can't say it, or you risk the death of your own career. Of course, the Episcopalians here have been split for a long time because they made Gene Robinson, I think was his name, in Connecticut, a bishop. He was openly gay, for which caused this huge split between conservative Episcopalians and more forward-thinking people. So, but I think he heard the Pope and he thought, I don't want to be left out. This is the Pope, even though it's a different religion, has opened up a window where I think I can say this.
Yeah, now the Pope, obviously, he's Roman Catholic, so he doesn't directly affect the Episcopalians, but it all sort of sort of fits, right?
Like, we don't want to, all of a sudden, like, one thing Episcopalians had is maybe we're not as conservative as the Catholics, and now we're like, hold on. Yeah, exactly.
What can we do to give the Pope and the very Reverend Gary Hall, what can we do to give them props? Because I think for the LGBT community, if you don't step up and acknowledge when things are actually changing, then they won't change. This
exactly.
Is
no, I think this is so wonderful, especially when you have like these leaders that people look up to, and they really get all their knowledge almost from these people.
Yeah.
Certainly not the Bible, because I don't know. Everyone would be whores still.
Yeah.
So, but
days.
yeah,
So-
I think it's great. I don't know how we give props other than talking about it,
I
tweeting
guess
about it.
Retweeting the Pope, I guess, would be
Retweet
the
the
number
Pope.
one thing that you could possibly do. So how
Yeah.
much further do we have to go here? Because if religion is finally coming around on the gay thing, and the Supreme Court's made some decisions, and things are really happening here and really all over the world, how much further till this is just completely out of the public discourse? Let's deal with America first. Like, is there a chance that one of the GOP guys in 2016, you think, is going to jump on board because this is sort of passed by, right?
I hope so, because I feel like most people are. I feel like most of these guys are, but they just change their political views to match the people that they're running for. And I feel like that's just so stupid. Why can't we have like a platform, someone on a platform that stands for everything, like stands for the people?
Wouldn't it be great?
Just
if
the
we had-
people. Just the people,
Yeah,
not
that's
the country.
Not Congress.
Oh.
That's not Congress.
Wouldn't it be great if we just had an election that was essentially about like whether somebody wanted responsible regulation and then someone wanted a little bit more, and that we debated the high tax rate of like whether it should be 31 or 27. Like if that was an actual debate we had in this country.
Yeah.
But
we'll get to that in a segment coming down the
But
pipe.
you know, yeah, I think in 2016 there's a possibility, because you're already looking at, you know, you wonder whether is Chris Christie, you know, he's Roman Catholic, and maybe he is Chris Christie doesn't engage in hostile anti-gay talk, correct? I'm not 100% sure of that.
He's not for gay marriage, which is very bizarre in Jersey, because it seems like the rest of the state is.
And he is challenging the New Jersey Supreme Court's decision.
Right.
But he
So
doesn't.
that's kind of anti-gay.
It is, but he doesn't
he's
engage
against
in the rhetoric. So
Right.
I mean, it might not be such a huge stretch if, like, what the Pope said influenced him, and he said, "Look, I'm against gay marriage, but but it's 78th on my list of things that I care about."
Yeah.
You think it's maybe because a fat guy doesn't want to make gay jokes? It just makes too, you know what I mean? It's too easy to make the. Yeah. So
I will say that anytime a major religion starts coming out and lets somebody off the hook in this, to speak oddly of it, but says, you know what, maybe we should ease up on the gays. That basically means that it's bad for the Jews.
Yeah. Because you got to place that hate.
They're like, I guess we'll just, you know what, we'll just go back to hate the Jews.
Yeah. No, that good old-fashioned hate.
That always works. Everybody loves that.
Yeah. So last thought on this. So what's next? If the gays get full equality, then what's next? Then everything's normal and cool, right? Answer it for all the gays.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just wish that people would separate this from politics and from religion in general. So hopefully it just becomes normal. Like, it is normal. So why can't people just like let it be normal? I don't know.
Remember, John Huntsman ran in 2012. I mean, again, nobody voted for
Yeah,
him. But
I like John Huntsman.
Yeah, of course, because he was sane.
Yeah. Well, remember, he used to stand up there at the debates and be like, I'm sane. Is anyone paying attention to this? And, right, because he was sort of decently kind of pro-gay, and he's since the election has come out even more so. Okay, let's move on. So this story is just completely bonkers. School officials at Weber Middle School in Long Island, not too far from where I grew up from, they are basically banning fun. Yeah, at recess, the kids will no longer be able to play with items such as footballs, hard soccer balls, baseballs, lacrosse balls, or anything that might hurt someone on school grounds. All these things are banned from recess. And this I love: rough games of tag or cartwheels unless supervised by a coach. So if you're being supervised by the cartwheel coach, I guess you could do a cartwheel. This seems just profoundly awful to me. Kids need to run around and do stupid things and fall off trampolines and monkey bars. They need to exercise their bodies and their brains. What is going on here?
It's such bullshit. Kids need to be able to fake injuries so they can get out of class, which is what I did.
Yeah. Did you ever go to class? You were constantly everything.
Because I can dislocate my shoulder.
Really?
So I did that a lot. But it really is, jokes aside, it's the most important thing, because would you rather have your kid outside playing with the chance he gets hurt, say he gets hurt, breaks his arm, or her, then she gets a really cool cast, and all the kids get to sign it, and she feels cool for a minute. Or would you rather have them sitting on the computer during recess?
Right. So of course what this is about is they don't want them out there and they're banging up their knees and they're getting scrapes. All things that have happened throughout the course of time, I'm pretty sure. Ben,
I think
they're
so.
taking recess away.
It's all horseshit. It's all
Yeah.
liability. It's school district worried about lawyers, worried about getting sued, and it's going to turn every one of these fucking kids into a Republican. Because it's like you can just I can smell it because like Matt Drudge reads this story and he's like, look at the regulations. The Democrats are taking away recess, and in this case, this is regulation gone too far.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're overly involved here in people's lives. Let the kids play football. Obviously, if they're tackling each other on school property, you go up and you go, hey, you got to play touch when you're at school. Like, it's not complicated. But also, they're still going to be able to play football. They just got to play it with a Nerf football.
Yeah.
So you can still hurt someone.
You can hurt someone with a Nerf football.
Oh, yeah.
You can, right? You get one of those in the eye, it can still hurt.
Totally. That's hard to get that foam out of your eye. I don't know, man.
The worst.
I watched the story. This was a television story that we were reading, that we were looking at, and they interviewed because the reporter has to make an effort. This is one of the problems with the media is that they can't do the story and go, this is obviously about liability and this is stupid, right? So they go and they talk to somebody in the ER there, and they ask him, what kind of injuries have you been seeing at school? And of course, what he's been seeing is the same injuries he's always seen, right? And he goes, well, head injuries, bumps, scrapes.
Yeah.
Sprained finger.
Right, just sprained finger, right.
Yeah.
Just break it down, everything's fine.
Yeah. All right, so removing the legal part out of this for a second, because it's obviously about the legal part, why is it that they always want to cut the things that are important? Like, if I was to look back on childhood, which was pretty decent, I went to a pretty decent school system, like, if they could have done anything different, I would say more recess. If I had a kid right now, I'd want them to take more music classes and more art classes.
Absolutely.
And not be zoning out like I did during all the other classes.
Right.
But why do we always go to the seemingly good things? Is it just because we're a bunch of liberal hippies here? You liberal hippie.
I don't even know. Maybe they just want everyone to be like pale and not see sunshine or something.
That's a good aspect. Lack of vitamin D for these kids.
I remember years ago when I was doing the show with Cenk, when I was doing the Young Turks with Cenk, and there was a story, I'm pretty sure it was in Dallas, and at graduation, they wouldn't allow teachers, faculty members, whether it was the principal or just a teacher during graduation, to hug a student. Like, you see your teacher who's like been there for 4 years and you're like, Larry, way to go. Good luck to you, right? They didn't want it because of the fear of the feelings of the unhugged.
Oh my God!
I swear to God, and that's a quote from it. The
So
feelings
in case this guy was playing favorites, basically.
right.
Not yeah,
With
but
his
he's playing
hugs.
favorites. But like, if he's not going to hug everyone, you can't hug anyone.
I
But
hate that rule.
right, it's crazy.
Well,
It's
then-
That's the cupcake rule, the third grade cupcake rule. If it's your birthday, you have to bring 2 cupcakes for everybody.
Right.
Stupid rule.
Yeah, and so you can't. And then there were schools that wouldn't allow birthdays to happen, any birthday celebration at all, because of the kids who had birthdays in June, July, and August who didn't get to celebrate the birthdays at school. Let me tell you, the unhugged kids in Dallas are fine. They're okay.
That's a great point. Maybe this is like a case of, I don't know, they're just defending the nerds or kids that aren't good at sports. And they're like, well, these kids aren't good at sports, so now
Right.
no one can play sports. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, but isn't that dangerous though? Like, even if you were to even prescribe that to the bullying thing, which obviously there is a bullying problem in middle schools and high schools and whatever, but that you get bullied in real life too, constantly.
Yes.
You're going to be bullied far more in real life than as a kid. So if you take
Thank
all
you.
of that out and you take out the competitiveness and learning how to be a team player in kickball or whatever,
you.
take all that out of childhood, then you dump some kid out into the real world, and yeah, you're going to get far more bullied than you were before, right?
Absolutely.
I'm getting a lot of head nods out of you, so I
Hey.
think you're on the crazy train
I think
here.
you nailed that for
Yeah,
sure.
Bullying, we eliminate bullying. You don't eliminate everything else. And again, you got to be grades of bullying. But as soon as you tell school administrators, there's some great people in school, but running schools. But when you start to school administrators, as soon as you apply that zero tolerance policy, then you're expelling kids for bringing a plastic knife to peel their orange. And it's zero tolerance is almost never works unless it's like zero tolerance for rape. Right? I think we can.
Right.
We can
Although
take
the
it.
Republicans have some exceptions because it'll shut it down.
Mostly, that's right. Minimal tolerance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm with you. It's a crazy story. It makes the whole country look bad.
Final thought. I went to an arts boarding school for my junior and senior year of high school, and our PE was hacky sack because we played soccer once, and they had to cancel that because you can't hurt the musicians because they need their hands to play their musical instruments. So that's, with the lack of sports, physical activity, look what happened to me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm super
So,
pale. I stay indoors a lot. I'm kind of antisocial. Just
Right.
You're on the computer all the time.
But what if
Yeah.
hacky sack? You
and
could
I'm
hurt
not
yours-
learning anything.
You apparently masturbate too much.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
A lot of shit went wrong with you.
But hacky sack,
Yeah.
you could hurt yourself with hacky sack. Twisted ankle, which then if you're, give me an instrument that you might need your foot for.
Piano.
Piano. Well, there you
could
go.
have given me 1,000 instruments to use your foot for. A piano would not have come up on that list. Yeah.
I don't know. First thing I thought of.
That was good.
All right, moving on. So we did one good story for the gays, but
Yeah.
in the gay world, most things are yin and yang. And here's a bad one for the gays. So Kuwait, I can't believe this, they have developed some sort of futuristic, incredible gaydar that I thought only gay people had. That's right, Yosef Mindcar. Sounds like Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe. He is the director of public health at the Kuwaiti Health Ministry, and he's given us this new gaydar. Let's take a look at the quote. Health centers conduct the routine medical check to assess the health of expatriates when they come back into the GCC countries. However, we will take stricter measures that will help us detect gays who will then be barred from entering Kuwait or any of the GCC member states. Let's just look at the GCC member states real quick. They are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, or Qatar, depending on what day it is, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. So these are countries where homosexual acts are banned.
Can we put that list up one
Let's
more
get
time?
that list up one more time.
Also known as America's closest allies in the Middle East.
Really, these are all considered allies of the United States. Am I maybe
Yeah.
Oman? Can we
Yeah,
confirm?
sure.
Yeah, ally. So those are pretty. Yeah. All right. So we're lined up with these guys. They're doing gaydar tests. Before we get into it any further, what do you think this gaydar test might entail?
God, I don't know. Lots of fingers.
Lots of fingers.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know what they're going to do, but I hope my brother doesn't have to go to Kuwait because he's as straight as they come, but any gaydar test, he's going to fail.
Yeah?
This is a guy who gets a pedicure during the Super Bowl. You
I'm
can't-
sure that's on the list. Of,
Right, and whatever they're doing, they're in Kuwait. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what the Super Bowl is, but you can't come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Even whatever I'm not sure of the methodology of how
Right.
they're going about doing this, but whatever it is, because this is so backwards, it's going to be things like that. Oh, the guy has,
Right.
nicely trimmed nails. He's obviously gay. You get some bear from West Hollywood, they're not going to think he's gay. He's a big fat bear.
Right.
You know, who's going to think that guy's gay?
It's just,
They're gonna-
we're making fun of it, right? But it just invites every dumb, incorrect stereotype about gay people.
Yeah.
What?
And about straight people.
More about straight people.
That's right,
I think. What does this say about the way we choose our allies in the United States? Because, as you said, all these are United States ally countries, and I get obviously every country's different, and everybody's going to have different laws, and we didn't even have gay marriage here till the last couple months, so fine. But shouldn't we have like a tiered system of like you got to have some basic human rights to be our prime time allies? Saudi Arabia, we're pretty close to them.
Yeah.
You know, women can't vote there. They can't drive. Supposedly they're going to be able to vote in a couple of years, but they won't be able to drive to get to the polling station.
They can vote for like dog catcher, like it's super super low municipal elections.
Yeah, it's the low stuff, exactly. So doesn't that have anything to do with how we pick our allies, that we should have just like a basic set of standards, like you got to treat your women equally before we're allies? Does that seem
It
like too
definitely
much?
should. It should be that way, but it's more like what can they offer us?
Yeah, right, what do we need?
Is there
What do
something
we
that they
need?
have over there that might...
Well, let's take a look at that
let's
list again.
think about that
Let's
list.
think, what is over there? What is that? I don't know. Yeah.
Does it start with an O?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there an I?
Orny or old?
Oil.
Yeah. So of course, and obviously in a region that includes the Taliban and Al Qaeda in various elements in Yemen and Pakistan and Afghanistan and other places as well. Obviously, so many of the 19 hijackers on September 11th came from Saudi Arabia. Like, it's freaking complicated, And so, what are you supposed to do? What's interesting though is that if they had a test to determine in those countries whether these people were Jewish,
Now that...
then we might actually do something,
Right.
So, but it's,
That could be similar to the gay test because of the circumcision. So there's
right.
something. It's something about the penis.
Yeah.
That's right.
always
Jews
about the penis.
well dressed.
So it's about the
in
penis.
general. Oh, actually, Jews aren't well
Yeah,
dressed.
Ben,
what am I
what are
talking
you saying?
about?
That- yeah,
That's the
come
dumbest thing I've ever said.
What? Chill out, homeboy.
Yeah, it's look. Anytime you sort of break down, look, everybody wants us to be allies with China and Russia. That makes sense, but
But they don't have great.
No, they have terrible human rights records. They have shameful human rights records. But it's better to be friends with people, and I think it's better to influence change from within, unless they're doing something particularly hideous like North Korea, or in the minds of some, Iran.
Yeah. Do you think they ever realize how much they're losing by not integrating gay people? Like, if you think of all the great things, all the great art and music and almost everything, clothes and everything that usually comes from gay people, and they don't have any of that. It's a damn shame, isn't it?
The
I
music
think
of
so.
Kuwait is taking a major hit. Yeah, Kuwaiti music would be like the most popular in the world if they would just let a couple of gay expats back in the country.
You let like a gay One Direction, a Kuwaiti One Direction. I mean, my God,
my
they'd be
God.
huge.
Are the guys in One Direction gay? I don't even know one.
I don't know what's
One
going
or two.
on.
We'll
One or
see.
two?
We'll see.
Yeah,
Couple of
somebody
years.
is-
Give it a couple years.
Yeah. Well, they say that one of them or two.
Probably.
We'll discuss this off air.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one part of the story that was great because Bahrain, which was on that list, weren't they? Was
Yes.
Bahrain on that list? Yeah. Arrested 127 people in 2011 for holding, and this is a quote from Gulf News.
Yes.
Amazing.
For holding a depraved and decadent party, which for the first time made me want to go to Bahrain. Because
What do you think what does that encompass?
I don't know, but it's awesome.
Depraved and
whatever. There are
decadent.
people having sex in dark corners, and you're having sex with strangers. Gay, straight, don't care. I want into that party. A party for me, 98% of the time, is like me in the corner next to no one, drinking a Sprite Zero, scanning the room for a television to watch the game that I would be watching if I'd stayed home and was enjoying myself.
I think you would enjoy yourself a lot more if you just had regular Sprite.
Sprite, it just sounds, the zero, it's like nothing. You're drinking nothing,
drinking
actually.
It was great is when I wrote that line, I had Sprite, and then I crossed it out. I was like, Sprite Zero's funnier.
See, people,
And then you come back with the funniest line of all. It's perfect.
we taught you a
Like
little
Burns and
something,
Allen.
a little
Yeah.
something about human rights and a little something about comedy
Yeah,
in
there
that
you go.
segment. There you go. All right, let's move on. Let's talk politics for a second. So we started with this a little bit earlier, but it seems to me that everything with this shutdown and Obamacare and the debt ceiling and all this nonsense is about 2016, and it's all the GOP guys jockeying for position. And I hate sort of talking about this stuff too much because it's years from now, and then it stops us from dealing with things that we should be talking about now. However, Howard Feynman wrote a really good piece in HuffPost that talked about how they're all just angling themselves to become the nominee in 2016 and how that's going to work through the primary process and all that. And he talked obviously about Ted Cruz, who's become like the hero of the Tea Party, which started with his 21-hour filibuster that wasn't really a filibuster. Rand Paul gets the libertarian wing. Marco Rubio, he had that immigration bill that was sort of DOA. Paul Ryan's obviously going to be in the mix because of his PDX 90 abs. And then Chris Christie, of course, who's not in Congress right now, so he may be the winner here because he doesn't even have to get in the fray of this whole big mess. So again, I don't really like getting into this stuff, but we sort of got to talk about it because it gives context to why everything's so broken. Because 3 years before the election, these guys are doing things to position themselves. So if we ignore it, it's still happening, right?
Yeah. I may not know a lot about politics, but I know a lot about being broken.
So as a broken person, are you constantly using things for years later to manipulate the future as they are?
I try to fix myself. I try to. I take a lot of advice from people.
Yeah.
I never go about it on my own. That's for sure.
Yeah, so Ted Cruz wouldn't like you because he's a rebel. He's a loner.
Yeah.
But you like teammates.
I do.
Interesting.
I like to work together.
Yeah.
Love and peace, guys.
Ben, what do you think?
I think that I'm with you that the mainstream media makes an enormous mistake and does a disservice to covering important issues when they cover everything in a horse race. It doesn't matter what you say, it only matters what you say and how it relates. And I engage in it. I love it. I love the horse race, but
I secretly love it. But
right, but not but it shouldn't come at the expense of talking about like how these people would govern and what that would mean.
Yeah.
The difference here is that in order to cover accurately what's happening in Washington now, you have to cover this part of it because everything these guys are doing has nothing to do with what they accomplish now, since all of them actually acknowledge we can't defund Obamacare, and eventually we're going to have to start the government back up and we're going to have to pay everybody back.
Right. Well,
So-
I'm pretty sure everyone's saying that except for Ted Cruz. I feel like he still thinks he can not fund it and win this thing
I don't think
somehow.
so. I don't. But either way, since I can't peer into the soul of a crazy person, right? But what he mostly wants was to be front and center and the voice of this sort of radical, I hate government. I hate the people who run government. I hate the things the government does.
Yeah.
And he worked. You know, he's at 20%. They're all like, all the guys you mentioned are between 10 and 20% in the latest polls. But Ted Cruz is a guy who got elected to the Senate like Wednesday. And now all of a sudden, in a straw poll, he actually leads among Republicans. That's what he wanted. So you have to talk about it.
Yeah, is part of the problem here that also that somehow this stuff is juicier because these guys are all such characters. I feel like they're all cartoon characters. Rand Paul's hair, the size of Chris Christie, like they're all sort of cartoon characters. And that's more exciting than talking about like the minutia of a bill, isn't it? Like you can just make fun of them and that keeps it in the discussion.
It makes it fun for people that aren't really interested in politics.
Right.
But we can live tweet speeches and events, and it's fun for everyone.
Yeah.
And
Is that part of the problem, though? Is that, I mean, I do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fun. I do too.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just like to tweet, so it's super fun. But it is a problem.
Yeah. Is that part of the problem? That because the policy stuff is just not the stuff that gets people talking. We could be sitting here breaking down some policy, and we'd get 6 views.
They take advantage of the fact that the press too, and there are a lot, obviously, you know, your show, Dave, and when we do the Young Turks, and all these shows are dependent on good reporters doing their jobs. So we have information to talk about. So there are great reporters out there. But as a whole, they don't take a lot of time explaining stuff because they don't really know. And it's hard to get at. I mean, the Affordable Care Act is confusing, right? And it's difficult. And of course, reporting on what's wrong with the Affordable Care Act now is pointless. We don't know what's wrong with it or what's right with it. It's a giant, huge bill, and it needs a year to breathe. And then obviously, like Social Security, and you go in and you fix the problems. But that requires...
But no, there's a glitch, so we have to shut down the whole thing.
And that doesn't... There's nothing about what I just said that works in a 24-hour news cycle, let alone, forget 24 hours, a 4-hour news cycle on cable and the internet. It's just so... And these guys know that. So they make a big speech, they make a big proclamation, they make sort of definitive points, the press covers it, and they get their way.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talk about this all the time here about how the mainstream media is so untrustworthy. I was watching Fox News the other day, and they were like, you know, look at the system, the Obamacare system. The computers are crashing because it's so inept and glitchy and blah, blah, blah. Literally turn to MSNBC. They're showing the same screen of the glitches, and they're saying it's because too many people were on there. So it's over, you know, because it's too good. So it's overloading the servers. And it's like, I'm pretty sure you're both lying. I don't know what's going on CNN. They're just showing Anderson's hair. But like, you know, like there's just nobody.
What there actually is, like, who knows what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah, but I mean, I'd actually,
No one.
you know, again, of course I come at it with bias, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot closer to the MSNBC thing because when you offer people the chance to get health care, they're going to think, yeah, I'll do that. Especially every single one of those people who has a child. Yeah. And they'll think the first day, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sign on. I'm going to make sure that my family has health care.
Yeah.
So I would, you know.
There you heard it. Ben trusts MSNBC slightly more than he trusts Fox News. All right, here we go. This is a great story. This is our last story. So Switzerland has a bill pending that is going to give every adult in the country $2,800 a month. They are going to vote on this shortly, and they want a basic minimum sort of living standard for everybody. And I just saw this, and I think this is kind of great. Now, they're a very small country, far smaller than America. Just to give you some perspective, their population is 7.9 million people.
It's like New York.
It's basically like New York. New York has 8.3 million. What do we have here? Like 300 million? Something like that.
Million,
So it's not. We can't really compare this through the American lens because obviously they're much smaller and they can do things on a micro level that we could never do here.
I think though of the 300 million in Americans, I think 180 million of them are Mexicans taking our jobs. That's what I hear.
Damn Mexicans taking our jobs.
I was going to say it's just people on the LA freeways.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So basically, Switzerland, which already has universal health care, by the way, which is given to everybody. And if you're rich, you do pay a little bit of a higher premium. Again, seems like a pretty fair system. So they seem to be doing something good there. Is there anything that we as Americans can take away from this system that's trying to give people just sort of like a baseline to be like, okay, you can live, and then go from there? Is there anything we can gain from that, from a system like that?
Yes, I would like that. I would like $2,800 a month. You could buy so much hot chocolate with that.
That would be a like the good stuff.
Like from Switzerland.
Right. Well, and
not Swiss Miss.
Everybody would get
like the actual.
Everybody would get a Swiss Army knife.
That would be good.
That would be great.
One
So
more.
Super convenient.
Cheese.
Oh, of course.
Duh.
I mean,
Oh my God.
What
Well,
else do they have? So, look,
they have happiness, Ben,
that's
They,
right.
they have happiness. Yeah.
because they're all equal.
Look, we have the best system of everything in this country. Our country is the best, and we can't learn anything from anyone else.
Never.
Yeah.
We're exceptional.
So, I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of America-hating slant you take it when you can we learn something from Switzerland. Fuck no.
Yeah.
And their dogs, and their cheese, and their stupid hot chocolate in the packets.
And the skiing.
Right,
And
and the
all that,
skiing,
yeah.
and the incredibly hot women, and the
Yeah.
sex with strangers. I don't know that happens, but I've been
happens.
focusing on that a lot.
Yeah, there's
and,
been a real theme on
I
this
sense
show.
that that's part of. It's like you say it's a small country, but it's 8 million people. It's not
It's not-
Belize,
right.
Like I mean, they have a country, and and they of course have strict immigration laws themselves because otherwise, if they do this, you would imagine that some neighbors in Germany and France who might be less well off would think, well, let's go to Switzerland and get the $34,800 a year.
Right, exactly. Does go ahead.
I would just say it'd be nice to feel comfortable month to month.
Just that alone.
Just that fact, that'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Do things like this ever make you think that the United States actually is too big to function? Because even if you look at everything going on in Congress right now, that our lives, say here in California, with obviously a more liberal set of beliefs than say a congressman in Arkansas or something, that this guy is still voting on the things that affect our lives when we really live, it's seemingly in another part of the world altogether. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
right?
it feels like that.
Yeah. Now I'm a secessionist too, or something like that.
I states' rights don't interest me, and I mean, I would have so many more federal laws.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's because I don't think states know what they're doing. We've sort of had this. We presuppose that the states all make the right decisions. California's made a series of horrible decisions, of course. We have this incredibly silly system of the referendums, where the uneducated people, myself included, I mean, I go to the polls and I'm like, issue 7A, and I'm like, I don't know.
Right. Well, isn't that like Prop 8's the great example of that? Because it was like
clearly.
people still weren't sure after they left the booth. I voted yes on Prop 8. Does that mean I'm for gay marriage or against gay marriage? I think it meant you were against if you voted yes.
There was a
It's
lot of
confusing.
compelling information that if the vote had been for gay marriage or against gay marriage, that for gay marriage would have won.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a silly way of doing things, and I don't think that because you can do something in one state, that it seems silly to me that you can't do it in another state.
Yeah. So getting back to Switzerland for a second,
Oh, yeah,
do you
right.
think all these people are just going to stop working once you have if you just had a basic amount of money and could pretty much pay your rent and live? Would you just retire? Would the Bree Essrig operation be over, or it would just begin? Because
No, it would
you'd
just
have-
begin. I would feel comfortable, and I would be able to do the job that I want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. You can actually spend your days doing what you want to do.
Yeah. Do you think there is some risk of I guess it's very anti-capitalism, the idea that you'd be given something even if it just puts you at a baseline.
Right, but capitalism doesn't work so people can make $34,800 a year. I mean, that's not how it's set up.
Was that the math? Did you just do the math right?
I did
Wow,
the math.
good
Yeah,
for
I
you.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
No,
of
I'm
people
wrong
would,
because it's
though.
200 off 12 months, so it's 2,400 less than 36,000. So it's 33.6.
I appreciate the fact checking
I apologize,
there.
everyone.
Yeah.
33.6 a year. So no, of course, it's not going to stop the desire of people to get ahead. Will it stop some people?
A lot of people.
Yeah, and there's that guy that Fox News jumped on a couple of weeks ago. That kid in here in Los Angeles, either in Manhattan Beach or maybe he was in Malibu, but he was taking government assistance.
Oh, right.
And spending all his money just eating pizza and
surfing.
And surfing, because that's what he wanted to do. And Fox was like, aha, this is what the people in the government do.
Yeah.
And okay, you found him. But you know what? There are the rest of them, the millions of others, what they do is they buy their food.
Yeah. So there you go. I'll say this one right to the camera. Not all poor people are surfers, in case you don't watch Bill O'Reilly. All right. I want to thank Ben Mankiewicz, Bree Essrig. Their Twitters are right below them. Oh, and I want to remind you that our pet partner, that's right, we've got a pet partner, people, is Kupaw.com. They have up to 75% off pet chews and toys, all kinds of fun stuff. And if you use code RR, you can get another 20% off.
Dave?
The link is right down below. Yes, Ben?
I did it today.
You did it today?
I did it.
I ordered something. I put in RR. I got 20% more off.
My good God. Now, you're a dog guy. 3 dogs, if I'm not
dogs,
mistaken.
yeah, that's right.
Two dogs.
2 dogs.
2 dogs.
And I have 1 dog. That's a lot of dog hair on us in places you can't see right now.
Nope.
All right. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. It's right down there. Thank you, and we'll do it again next week. Okay.